So the PS Portal, a portable device, or more accurately, a tablet with a gamepad, has suddenly become a surprise hit. But unlike the PS Vita, Sony's full-fledged portable console that essentially shot itself in the foot, the PS Portal hit the mark. Sony proudly reported this in their year-end summary, as even the PlayStation leadership didn't anticipate such a craze and sales figures. But what's so special about it that everyone rushed to buy it? A year ago, I reviewed it right after its release and, to put it mildly, wasn't exactly impressed. But time has passed, a lot has changed, so why not take another look at the PS Portal? But this time from a different angle. This is a review of Sony's streaming device, which you can now use to play games even without owning a PlayStation 5. But do you really need it? I'll tell you everything. So support this video with a like, subscribe to the channel, and let's get started. Let's start with the basics, the design. Nothing has changed here. It's essentially a split DualSense with an 8-inch Full HD screen at 60 Hz slapped in between. Overall, it's a solid foundation for enjoying AAA games comfortably, ensuring both text remains legible and details stand out. Visually, it's undeniably cool, fitting perfectly with the overall aesthetic of this console generation. Plus, they've retained all the gamepad's functionality. Adaptive triggers and tactile vibrations are still here. The sticks, though, are slightly smaller than the standard ones, but that doesn't cause any discomfort. And judging by user feedback, even those who've spent long hours with the device haven't experienced stick drift, unlike with the regular DualSense. And even if drift did occur, replacing the sticks is easy since they're not soldered to the board like on the DualSense. The only question is, where do you get those replacement sticks? But I'm pretty sure you could find something on AliExpress, courtesy of our friends in China. At first, I'll admit, I was a bit nervous about pressing the sticks. The unfamiliar clicking sound was unsettling, and I worried they might break, but over time, I got used to it and don't even notice it anymore. One could try to nitpick the design, like for $200, couldn't they at least add a rear paddle for each hand? But honestly, I don't want to. The design mirrors the shape of the DualSense, which ensures intuitive controls without the need to relearn anything. Or you could complain about the screen, since it uses a standard IPS panel instead of the now popular OLED, but this was clearly done to keep the device's cost reasonable. Beyond that, there's really nothing to criticize. It's a simple, rock-solid device that looks stylish and does exactly what it's supposed to: deliver portable gaming. The real question is how it achieves that. Let's dive into that in more detail now. Initially, the PS Portal was marketed as a companion to the PlayStation 5, designed for streaming games from the console. The idea was to let you play when the main TV is occupied, when you want a game while lying in bed, or even remotely, say, on vacation or at work. Though, let's be real, gaming at work is a quick way to lose that job. In simpler terms, it was essentially an accessory, albeit a pricey one at $200. That couldn't even run anything locally. There were reports, though, about someone running a PSP emulator on a jailbroken device, since, at its core, this is basically an Android tablet with a custom interface. But those efforts never went beyond a few posts on Twitter. It seems Sony somehow worked things out with the hackers because they patched that vulnerability quickly, and no one seems interested in finding new ones. Which is a shame, honestly. The original PSP had a massive library of games. Sure, they're graphically outdated by today's standards, but many of them are still fun and could help pass the time in places like the subway or anywhere without a stable internet connection, something you absolutely need for streaming games from the console. And of course, let's not forget that you still have to buy those games, but that much is obvious. So, you've bought the necessary games, unboxed your PS Portal, and connected it to your console. Setting it up is incredibly simple. Just connect to your home Wi-Fi, search for available devices, log into your PlayStation Network account, pair with your console, and you're good to go. At least that's how it should work if you've got an internet speed of at least 15 megabits per second, as Sony claims. But in my case, even with 100 megabits, albeit not the most stable connection, the experience was terrible. This device, designed exclusively for game streaming, because let's face it, you can't do anything else on it, no YouTube, no web browsing, no apps like that, struggles with its core purpose. Quick disclaimer, since this is streaming, everyone's experience will be unique, so keep that in mind, but for me, it's been a disaster. Constant packet loss, pixelated visuals, and FPS drops during action-packed scenes. On video, it's not as noticeable since it's recorded in 30 frames per second, making dips from 60 to 30 harder to catch. But complete frame freezes? Those are painfully obvious. In single-player games, you can kinda deal with it, but in multiplayer games, it's completely unplayable. And let me remind you, this is on a home Wi-Fi network. Don't even get me started on public Wi-Fi in cafes or hotels. Why does this happen? Honestly, I haven't fully figured it out. Some might say it's all about location. The farther you are from Sony's servers, the worse your gaming experience will be. And there's some truth to that since the console first sends the video feed to Sony's servers, which then transmit it to the portal. But that logic only applies when you're connected to different Wi-Fi networks. At home, on the same network, why does the picture still break down? And it's not just me. Many users from around the world complain about similar issues. Just take a look at Reddit. Even professionals like Digital Foundry have pointed out that opinions are split. Some users report flawless performance, while others face constant drops in image quality. This isn't just about the stability of your internet connection, but also about its type and settings, be it your router or ISP configuration. Honestly, I'm not sure which, but if you're out of luck, well, c'est la vie. That's why some reviewers praise the Portal, while others, like I did in my first review, couldn't understand why it was released at all. And if Sony had left it at that, I wouldn't have come back to it. But then something much more interesting happened, right around the new year, almost like a gift from Sony. They introduced a second mode for using the device, cloud gaming directly from the company's servers. This means you don't even need your own PlayStation 5. And suddenly, the PS Portal becomes liberated like Dobby the house elf, transforming from an accessory into a fully independent device. Now, on the main screen, you have a choice. Connect to your console or select cloud streaming. Setting up cloud gaming is simple. Just scan a QR code from the Portal's screen with your smartphone and log in. Then, all you need is a PlayStation Plus Premium subscription. Sure, someone might point out that this subscription is region-locked and unavailable in certain countries, and they'd be absolutely right. But there's a workaround. If you're eager to try cloud gaming, but PS Plus Premium isn't supported in your region, you can easily create a second account tied to a region where it is available. Simply top it up using prepaid codes, and voila! You gain access to a pretty large library of games you can play almost anywhere in the world without owning a PS5 or any other device. Here's the paradox. I have no idea what kind of Hogwarts magic Sony used, but cloud gaming works significantly better than local streaming. When I stream from my PS5, which, let me remind you, is literally in the next room and connected to the same Wi-Fi network as the PS Portal, the image often breaks down into pixels. And during intense scenes, there are noticeable frame drops, making fast-paced games downright unpleasant to play, as I mentioned earlier. But with the cloud gaming mode, even on mobile internet, it runs flawlessly. The only difference compared to a stationary internet connection is the image quality. On a 4G mobile network, the resolution is standard HD 720p. On a 100 megabit Wi-Fi connection, it's full HD, smooth, stable, and without pixelation or frame drops, even in multiplayer games. And here it is, what seems like the perfect solution for the PS Portal. It's not a streaming console, but a cloud-based one, designed for gaming directly from the company's servers. However, there's a catch. As I mentioned earlier, to play games, you need a PS Plus subscription with streaming access. Fine, that's understandable. But the real issue lies in its limitations. You can only play games included in the subscription. If you want to try something new or from third-party studios, you'll have to revert to remote play with a PS5, which, I remind you, performs much worse. Perhaps it's an issue with the algorithms, but since these haven't been fixed in over a year, hope is dwindling. So if you've already owned a PS4 or currently have a regular PS5 and have played most of the games included in PS Plus, buying the PS Portal for its cloud gaming feels like a questionable investment, unless, of course, you're waiting for new releases. Or you're into grinding live service games like GTA Online, which will remain relevant with endless content at least until GTA 6 releases. However, I wrote this segment back when GTA Online was still available in the subscription. Sadly, it's no longer included, so now your options are either to wait for it to be added again or play the remaining library. For new players, this is actually a pretty decent deal. You can dive into Spider-Man, God of War, Demon's Souls, and others without being tied to a specific location. But for veteran gamers who've already played through these titles on PS5, it's a much more doubtful proposition. Additionally, these are far from all the drawbacks. They may be small individually, but together, they significantly damage the overall experience. For example, the device only supports Sony's own peripherals, such as Pulse headphones, over wireless. It simply doesn't detect other headphones. Thankfully, there's at least a mini jack for wired headphones, which allows you to connect any headset. Another issue arises if you try to use Wi-Fi in a hotel that requires logging in through an online form. The Portal simply can't load such forms, which is, to say the least, unpleasant. But of course, the biggest drawback of this device is its reliance on a network connection. If you're on the go, you simply can't play anything on it. Compared to competitors, this is a major disadvantage, especially if we evaluate this as a cloud-based device. Take for instance the Logitech G Cloud, a similar tablet with a gamepad for streaming. However, it supports multiple services, not just Sony's. You get Game Pass, which has a much larger library, GeForce Now for streaming games from Steam or the Epic Games Store, and even PlayStation streaming, and all of that is available right out of the box. What's more, since it runs on an Android system, you can install pretty much anything on it. Android games, emulators, you name it. It becomes a truly versatile device. Granted, it does cost $100 more, and its gamepad isn't as luxurious as the one on the PS Portal, but in terms of functionality and flexibility, it's a much more well-rounded option. In the end, if the PS Portal was previously little more than a third wheel for the PlayStation 5, an utterly unnecessary device that worked poorly depending on the quality of your internet, now with the addition of the cloud mode, it has revealed a different side of itself. Of course, the limitations of the PS Plus library are still an issue. If you want to play something new, you'll still need to use your PS5 for streaming. However, with the expansion of the subscription, the addition of new games, monthly updates, and anticipated upcoming releases, you can find something to occupy your time. That said, it's important to remember that this is still not a standalone device. Without internet access, it turns into a brick. Adding a PSP emulator, for instance, could have been a reasonable compromise, especially since Sony itself shouldn't face any hurdles implementing this. As it stands, I'm not even sure what to compare it to. Other devices can run games autonomously, but they're also significantly more expensive. This puts the PS Portal in an awkward middle ground. It's no longer just an accessory for the PS5, but it's not a fully standalone device either. At the very least, you can now actually play on it properly, although it took more than a year to get to this point.